live from Body Design University. This is Corey Ritter and Doug Blake, Personal Trainer Talk. It's Wednesday, 2 o'clock. Let's see, we've got a bunch of people here. Let's get some of these folks in. Wednesday, 2 o'clock, Personal Trainer Talk. We are here to answer all of your questions. Doug, are you ready to rock and roll?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Bring it on.
So we've got some great questions today. But I think a couple of things we got to tell the folks is that we got a live course coming up. And I know one of the questions that we had received not too long ago was, what do they mean by tuition credit for anyone that's in the NASM program or the ACE program? Let's just throw that out there real quick, is that every 2 months we have a 2-week live intensive hands-on training. And if you've already purchased your NASM or your ACE, or for that matter, we actually do this for all the different certifications out there, you can literally get a full tuition credit if you come and be a part of our course. So we'd love to have you. What we mean by that is whatever you've paid towards your current certification, you can literally just be a part of what we got going on and get a full credit. So, but we are here Wednesday every 2 p.m. to answer your questions. This is for personal trainers that are just getting started. This is for personal trainers that have been training for many, many years. We just want to help get you to the next level, whatever that is. So we're going to share some wisdom today that I think would be really helpful for you and your business. And that includes if you're literally just, even if you're just, I don't know, an employee somewhere, just getting started, just how to build your business inside of the gym that you're working or the studio that you're working at. A lot of folks just getting started can use a little bit of mentorship. So, Doug, does that sound good?
Coming on board. Hey, that sounds great. Yeah.
Yeah. We got a bunch of people dropping in here. Hey, welcome everyone. So what's it like down in Florida today?
Man, I tell you what, we've got more rain than we know what to do with, but man, it's great for the garden.
Yeah. I think that South Florida is like, even if it doesn't rain, you can just feel the humidity throughout.
Yeah. It's all right though.
So what's growing? What's growing really good right now down there?
Let's see. For those that are familiar with in the Jamaican community, I just finished up all the callaloo that I had growing, and I just got all my seeds for the next growing season. So you let your callaloo grow out and you get all these
callaloo
with a C. Yeah. They call it Jamaican spinach. So,
is it like spinach?
It's better than spinach. It's the best, man. It's the best. Yeah. It really
nice.
Really, really good. So got my seeds and I'm ready to go.
Wait, hold on. Is that plant that you try to stick in the garden when you were up here last and you broke off a little and pushed it
No, but that's growing well too. That's called longevity spinach. And my longevity spinach is growing just all over the place. I got longevity spinach. I've got Usan spinach. I've got Okinawan spinach. I got all these spinaches, and they just grow out of control.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Really
Good
cool
stuff.
Guys, thanks for being with us here today. And again, no matter where you are in your journey of becoming a successful personal trainer, we're here to help support you and help you get to the next level. So let's get the show on the road. You ready to get started, Doug?
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
Okay. So we've got some questions that have messaged in. I know we've got some folks in the group here. But let's start off with Tina here. Tina is messaged in from Florida. All right. She's from Florida. What chapters are most important for the test? Let's see.
Ooh.
I don't see Tina in the talk here. So, I mean, Tina, I guess it really depends on which program that you're studying. I'm guessing that, are you talking about our program, going through the Body Design University course? Because you're saying chapters, I'm thinking that you're referring to either ACE or NASM. But Doug, help Tina out with just like an overview of the key ones if you have them by heart for ACE, and then the key ones if you have them by heart for NASM.
So generally the trend for ACE, and they've moved from the 5th to the 6th edition. So the general trend is, I can't give you the specific chapter, but the most highly represented areas that are on the test from a number of questions from that particular chapter area is generally going to be from assessments. And so I think in ACE, that's chapters 3, and then in the 6th edition, and 7 through 10, something like that, if I remember correctly. So the assessments are really, really important. And any type of regression, progression type of scenarios for program design. And that's what ACE has always really pushed. So those specific chapters that talk, directly to programming design, 6th edition, they've got the new mover method. And so they're going to start adding some additional questions in there. So from its studying perspective, I would not just look at, chapter 5 or chapter 8. ACE in particular, they tend to spread it, unlike NASM, they tend to spread their questions out. So you'll get, on ACE, and Corey, this, you get a question, from a business about an LLC, and you're like, what? I don't even, and that was in chapter 16, one of those last chapters. So if you don't have it, and normally, people ask us these questions because they've got 1 week to study. They let it go. Right. And they're like, what do I need to study? And my answer is, wow, you better hope you're a speed reader. I would definitely for sure look at our general study guide that we have that really actually tells the student what the higher priority, medium, and lower priority chapters are. And that's simply because of what we know percentage-wise, the representation of the material from those particular chapters represented the number of questions wise on the exam. So
yeah,
look, it's going to be programming. It's going to be assessments. That's what they tend to push. NASM can be a little bit more targeted. And in the 7th edition, again, a lot of emphasis on the OPT model itself. So there are some chapters, and NASM did a great job by really pushing things into particular chapters and focusing on those particular areas. Assessments, same thing. Assessments, programming design, in particular with the OPT model. And so, of course, body design, BDU, big emphasis on modules 2, 3, and 4. Modules 5 and 6 are not as heavily represented, but there's a lot that needs to be understood in the BDU materials that you're not going to see for the most part in NASM and ACE, which is going to be the advanced nutrition and the business. Hope that answers that question.
Yeah, no, that was great. Absolutely. I think that in general, obviously we're going to say, Tina, study throughout all the chapters, but if you haven't, you can download our free study guides at bodydesignuniversity.com/study, bodydesignuniversity.com/study, a free study guide with the most important chapters for NASM and ACE. I highly recommend that you download those. The other thing is, if you haven't already stumbled across our YouTube, which is relatively new, you can go there and get the chapter by chapter. You definitely want to check that out. We were talking about this earlier this morning. We're still, I believe, the only school in the nation that is providing a complete review on audio of the entire NASM 7th edition textbook, as well as a complete review on audio of the entire ACE 6th edition textbook. So you're going to want to check that out if you want to become a student, or if you are a student, you're going to have access to that information. The YouTube, of course, is free. The chapter by chapter, go check that out. It's awesome. And the study guide is free. So I hope that really helps. We got a question here from Dave Clark in Wisconsin. Dave Clark in Wisconsin is asking, how do I get started with Instagram or Facebook advertising? Well, Dave, I don't see Dave on here. Oh, gosh, I see everyone's dropped in. Hey, nice seeing you guys. Thanks for being here. Dave, that's a great question. How do we get started? Well, the best way that I would recommend that you get started with the Facebook or Instagram ads to generate leads is simply by posting at least once every day organically on your Instagram, and just stick with the Instagram for now. When I just follow me, You'll understand why in just a second. But you're going to post on Instagram every day, and you're going to test your copy. So you're going to write different copy, and that copy's got to have, it's got to have a hook, so it gets just everyone's attention. And, it's got to have a story that kind of provides, a little connection to what it is that you do and connects with that prospect. And then it really has to have an offer. So it's got to have that hook story offer in the copy, in the way that you write that. When you're posting a photo, training a client inside your gym, client results, whatever the case is. So you're going to practice that. That's the best way to get started. And once you do that, then you want to select, say, the best one after 2 or 3 weeks of doing that every day. And once you have the best one that you've done, and when I say best, we judge the best by the amount of clicks to your website. So behind the scenes, when you have a business Instagram account, you can actually see how many people looked at that post and clicked to your website. Now, why is that important? Why not likes? Why not engagement? Well, because clicks to your website are the most important for lead generation in the personal training business. And so that's what you want to use as, your analytics. That's what you want to use as your selection, clicks to website, because you can have 100 likes, but what if you only have 2 clicks to your website? But then you have 10 likes, but you got 5 clicks to your website. Which one are you going to put money behind and advertise? People just liking your post, or people actually going to your website? So that's how you're going to want to get started. It's a really simple formula that I've put together and have used in that way through our businesses for a very long time. And so you're going to want to implement that. Post organically, 2 to 3 weeks, 1 post every day, test your copy, test your photo. Once you have copy and a photo that resonate together and you get a good response, and such that they go over to your website, they have that level of interest, then what you want to do is you want to start with an advertising budget. And generally speaking, it could be as low as, $25 a day. It could be $50 a day. Generally $25 to $50 a day is where I'd recommend starting. And then you post that and you run that as an Instagram and Facebook ad. So to answer your question, that's how you get started with Facebook, Instagram advertising. And I've taken that formula from literally $25 to $50 a day to as high as $50,000 a month. And it works. And so I would highly recommend use that method. So thanks for your question, Dave. I hope that helps. Okay. We've got a couple folks on here raising their hand. I've got Johnny. Let's see, Johnny, I'm going to unmute you, Johnny, and you could fire away. Hey, Johnny, you there? I'm not sure if you're connected. We're not getting any audio. Let's see here. I see that you're on mute now. Johnny, are you with us? All right. I'm going to bounce over to, all right, this next question we have here. And John, if you get your mic taken care of, we'll jump you back in. Damon Statham from California. He is asking, what's the best way to get clients and how to retain them? What's the best way to get clients and how to retain them? So, Damon, if you just heard me speak about the previous question on Instagram and Facebook advertising, how to get started, truly today, that is one of the best ways to fill up your roster pretty quickly. You'll create a constant flow of leads. So what's the best way to get clients and how to retain them? Right now, obviously, you have to have a really good product. You show up for your appointments. You give awesome workouts. You have a lot of enthusiasm. You really just, you got a great product. And then you have to advertise. You got to get the word out there. And the fastest way to do that and the best way to do that, in my opinion, and that's for somebody just getting started or for somebody that's been a personal trainer for many years, is Facebook, Instagram ads. The return on investment is just incredible. Now, Google ads would be number 2. And those are both great ways to get started. how to retain them. I'm going to let Doug jump in on this one because I've been kind of alienating him a little bit on these last two. But I'll tell you how to retain them is really simple. In my formula is just give them more than what you promised them. That's it. Just promise them a certain level of service. And then once they get started and they pay you, just give them a little bit more than that. That's what you have to figure out. Doug, how else would you recommend he retain them?
I would say don't hurt them. That's normally a good. So you gotta know your training. You got to know your biomechanics. You got to know your exercise performance. You got to know your range of motion issues. You got to know all of those things. You've got to know your nutrition. You've got to have all of those things dialed in to ensure. And then guess what? You got to ask them, You got to ask them if there's things that they're not receiving or that you can help them with in addition to the servicing that you're providing. You can talk to them and ask them. And by the way, that asking now, and you didn't even ask this, but now you can ask them for referrals. All of a sudden, you find that this entire process comes full circle. So retaining clients is always going to be about the servicing, and
but what's the main thing that you recommend? That they do to retain their clients. Now they've got a bunch of clients. What's one thing that you would say? Hey, you really got to do this to retain them.
For sure, I would say you have to be interested and energetic when you engage with them every time they come in. Plus the other elements of ensuring that they get the results that they came there for. So I guess if you're going to say one thing, for sure, it's the results, right? But a lot of folks, you know this as well as I do. Not every client comes in with well-defined goals and desires to achieve a certain amount of weight loss or lean body mass gain. They just want to work out. Yeah. And in that case, well, then what do you do? Well, this is where your ability to be, on point when you get into that club, have lots of energy, be consistent, and make people want to actually come in and participate. That's a big part of it as well.
Yeah. A couple of things you said I thought were really big is like, don't hurt them. It's so important. Like, Doug is joking a little bit, but the truth of the matter is that you have to work them hard enough to where they feel like they're getting their money's worth, but not too hard that where they never want to come back. And a lot of trainers, especially new trainers, don't realize that, these folks, a lot of them haven't worked out in a very long time. And if you bash them or you just try to show them what you have on the first few workouts and they're like, they go home and they're just beat down. They're sore for a week. And, they don't want to come in like that.
It's funny because the one thing that's really easy to do is to beat the heck out of somebody in the weight room.
Yeah.
It's not that difficult. It really isn't. All I got to do is add more weight, do more reps, or do more exercises. That, of course, is not what we want to be doing with our clients. Yeah. The good trainers, the really good trainers are the ones that know how to moderate their volume and intensity with respect to the individual's ability to recover and deal with the total amount of workload that you're imposing on them.
That's the key, guys. Judgment. As a trainer, a great trainer, you just have to have judgment. You got to be reading that client because you got to push them enough to where their body is stressed and they get results and they're getting a great workout, but not too much to where, again, they're going to be sore for a week or they're going to think about that. And I'm telling you, just from experience, I've had clients tell me over this for many years, like, they're at work and they're like, man, if I got to go back in there and get beat up, and be sore for another week. Some people, like for us, we love getting sore. That's a sign of achievement. But until they get into that groove and their condition, that doesn't feel the best. So just keep that in mind. And then of course, like Doug said, the results, you've got to get results. And I think to retain some clients, sometimes if they know that you care, if they know that you care, they'll stick around a little bit longer while you're figuring out how to really motivate them. If they know that you care. If they don't know that you care and they're not getting results, they're gone. They're history. So, Damon, I hope that helps. I hope that answers your question. What's the best way to get clients and how to retain them? Okay, Johnny, I see I got a message over here from you. I'm going to bounce back over to Johnny. Okay, I'm going to unmute you. Just tell us what you got going on, Johnny. What's your question?
Hey guys, can you hear me now?
Oh yeah.
Yes, we hear you loud and clear. How you doing?
Awesome. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. So my question for y'all is it better to train my clients in a heated environment or a cool environment when it comes to fat loss? You know, how much of a factor do, the outside elements play?
That's a great question. It's funny because, you hear about this hot yoga and there's a lot of other benefits, especially with yoga, but from a weight training or fat loss standpoint, I'll tell you, there's never been anything that I've seen or read, any science that would say you should train them in a heated environment, even outdoors or inside in a AC environment. What I want to do is I want to put them in an environment to where they're going to feel good and perform at their best. Truly, as far as fat loss, no, the temperature in the room is not going to make any difference in everything that I've read or ever seen. Doug, what say you?
Yeah. I mean, that's the reality of it. No, your biggest concern with from a thermal regulatory perspective is hydration. It's hydration, and that's really again, whatever the external environmental conditions are, you're going to match that. It's not an issue of fat loss. Is there increased thermogenic effect or imposition on the body? Yeah. Does that make any significant difference? It's funny because we always got to go back to the reality that when we look at 1 pound of fat has how many calories associated with it, right? 3,500 something. It's not actually 3,500, but it's good enough, right? For government work, that's the number we use. The amount of heat stress on the body to make any significant changes to any sort of fat burning is negligent and can be potentially dangerous because of hydration issues. So even things like hot yoga, that's fine, but you got to be very, very careful.
Be careful. Doug, be careful what you say about hot yoga.
I know be
careful. Okay.
No, and practitioners of that will tell you their biggest concern for people doing it is hydration as well.
Yeah,
as well it should be. If anybody's ever done wrestling, right? You know how they put on.
Of course, I was a wrestler. 152. 152 was the class, man. Come on.
Oh my God, you were 152
in high school. I wrestled 152, and I was I've always been just so skinny, but Johnny, that's look, don't worry about the temperature. Focus on a temperature that feels good for the performance of the client and they feel good. That's really the most important. And the other thing is just think of it this way. Even if it was, for example, effective to train in heat or cold to get different results, at the end of the day, the client, you got to create a lifestyle and you want them to create an exercise lifestyle that's around normal type of environment and habit. So I hope that answers your question, Johnny. Yeah, he's back on mute. But so Doug, the funny thing is, the folks running down the road with the sweatsuits on. Did I say funny? I shouldn't have said that out loud. Because some of them are trying really hard.
It's dangerous. It's dangerous. It's what year is this? 2021.
They're still doing it. They're still doing it. I saw somebody at the park not too long ago, and they had it was warm. It was warm out, and they had a sweatsuit on, a windbreaker, and just so you guys know that all that does is it just it's just water loss. That's really all that is.
And by the way, it's not that it's neutral in its effect. So you lose. No, it's actually detrimental. Yeah. Remember the metabolic changes or adaptations that the body is trying to adjust itself to under those type of conditions are actually detrimental to the very thing you're trying to do, which is to lose body fat. The body will adapt in many different ways to the environmental conditions imposed on it. If you hit it with high temperature, things like this, then the metabolism, the metabolic rate will actually adjust itself to deal with these imposed demands on it. And thermal reactivity is a big part of why some people have a challenge.
Yeah. And look, at the end of the day, we know it's the get, weight loss quick thing. And, it's the whole lose fat with no effort, all these kind of schemes and things that go on. Just know that, wearing a sweatsuit or a waist trimmer around your weight or any of these type of around your waist, any of these type of things, just,
look,
if I could, not effective.
If that's what did it, and I could eat donuts and did I say donuts? If I could eat donuts and wear a suit and that would be the answer. Yeah,
we'd all do it. So anyhow, I hope that answers your question, and let's move on. And guys, we see a bunch of folks in here. Thanks for being a part of here. Go ahead and raise your hand if you have a question. Brandy, I see you in queue here. Austin, I've got you in queue. You can also type in the chat, just say that you have a question. We're going to jump over to you. We've got another one in here from Julia Zuniga. Julia Zuniga. I hope I didn't chop that up for you. She's from New York. And Julia is asking, in order to build muscles, how important are carbs? Great question, Julia. I see Julia's here in the group too. So Julia, carbs are really important. Carbs are actually really important for fat loss too. People don't realize this, but carbs play a massive role in fat loss. And so I'm going to let Doug dive into that a little bit deeper, and then I'll give some feedback. But Doug, what do you think? She's asking, are carbs important for muscle gain, right? Can you explain to her from a science standpoint, what's the most important reason why?
Yeah. And the answer is at a high level, it's pretty straightforward. In order to quote, build muscle, we talk about two types of hypertrophy. One is called sarcoplasmic, which is all the liquid and stuff inside the muscle cell. And that's what, if you take creatine, for instance, creatine will increase sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. And then there's myofibrillar, or the protein, right? So when we talk about building muscle, most people are inadvertently speaking about what's known as myofibrillar hypertrophy, which means I'm getting more actin and myosin and all the other proteins. By the way, there's lots of proteins associated with just within the myofibril and the sarcomere itself. It's not just actin and myosin. That's what we say because it's just easier. We're not going to talk about all the there's about 7-8 other main proteins involved in that particular unit. So the idea is then to build muscle, we want to put more protein into the skeleton, into the musculoskeletal structure, right? The muscles themselves. Well, now wait a minute. If I don't have enough calories to support the anabolic action of getting more proteins in, then I'm not going to quote build muscle. Well, in order to ensure that proteins and amino acids are available for muscle growth, i.e. increased myofibrillar development, I have to make sure that my caloric intake is satisfied. And so carbohydrates, by their very nature, fats as well, but carbs more so, are responsible for what we call protein sparing activity. And when we say sparing, we're saying sparing the protein from being used as a source of fuel. So proteins get oxidized just like carbs and just like fat do. Okay. And when they're oxidized, they essentially become, for the most part, unavailable for that myofibrillar growth and development. So carbohydrates in the right amounts, everything else being equal, will actually ensure that the proteins you consume in your diet then are available for myofibrillar growth. That is the 30,000 foot explanation of why carbs are critical.
Holy cow. Julia, he just took that to the next level for you. But so answer your question. Yes, carbs are important. How important? Very important. Very, very, very important. And just keep in mind, when it comes to building muscle, nutrition, without a doubt, plays the most important role. Protein, it makes sure that you stay in a positive nitrogen balance. You take in the right amount of protein, generally speaking, 1 gram to 1.5 grams of protein per pound of lean body mass. So protein obviously plays a big role too. And then the thing that's always, kind of like underestimated is sleep. So besides the heavy lifting, eating the right protein, carbs, just make sure that you're getting the right rest for recovery, Julia. Julia, thank you for that question from New York. So we're going to move on. We've got a bunch of questions popping in here. Really excited for this. Let's bounce over to Austin. Austin, I am going to unmute you so you can fire away. Tell us what you got. What's your question, Austin? How can we help?
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes, we can. Hey, how are you?
Doing great. How are you guys?
Doing great. What's going on? How can we help?
So my question today would be basically around like the hiring and or interviewing process for personal trainers when you're, say, in a position where you're running your own business or a gym of your own. I would like to know what 3 must-ask questions are, in you guys' opinion, that you have to ask every single trainer throughout the interview process.
Okay, now that's great. Awesome, Austin. Now, is it 3 each or I mean, do we get 6 total, or is it just 3 total between me and Doug?
That's up to you guys. If you want to be that thorough, go ahead. I just really need 3.
All right, cool. I'm just messing with you, Austin. Great question. So let's see, the 3 must-ask questions. Okay. I'm going to give you my 3, and I'm going to try and reflect back. And I'm still doing hiring, not for personal trainers, but for other positions. But I've hired so many personal trainers. First one I'm going to go with is, why do you want to be a personal trainer? It's so simple. I really just want to find out why. And when they give me that superficial surface answer, I'm going to ask, well, why do you want to do that? And then why do you want to do that? So I'm going to go deep with them, but I really want to know why they want to be a personal trainer. Do they, what I've learned over the years is it's not about your love for fitness. Personal training is not about your love for fitness. It's not about how much you enjoy working out. It really is about how much you enjoy helping others. And I need to find that this person really has a desire or care for getting other people fit, not just flexing their biceps themselves in the mirror. So why do you want to be a personal trainer? I will ask them, when I'm sitting with them and they give me, they have their resume there, I'll ask them, please describe how Susie, your last manager at this company, would describe you in 3 words. So that question is, let's just imagine the candidate is Steve. I'll say, Steve, Julie here was your manager at ABC company. Give me 3 words that they would use to describe you as a worker there. And if I call over to Julie, try to get as close as you would to what she would say. And I write down 3 words. That's a question that I really like. And then I ask them, I'd say the last, probably the most important is, give me an example of some adversity that you've gotten through, and how you got through that adversity. And I'm trying to identify that they've gone through some challenges and that they're willing to persevere, and how they do that and what they did. I think those are probably 3 really big ones for me, Austin, that I've asked over the years. Again, why do you want to be a personal trainer? And then I'll keep asking why until I get to the underlying reason. How would this previous supervisor manager describe you in 3 words? And then tell me about some adversity now during the interview, there's going to be other things that might pop up that would get me to ask, like their income goals and, how many hours a week they like to work. A question I've been asking a lot lately is like, do you prefer to have more work-life balance and earn a lower income? Or do you prefer to work a lot more and earn a higher income? What type of, worker are you, and what's important to you at this point in your life? There's a lot of questions, but those 3 are going to probably be the most important. Doug, which 3 would you say?
Those were the exact same ones that no, I'm just messing with you.
They should be pretty close, Doug. Come on.
Of course. It's funny. I've done hiring in different settings, and the hospital wellness center that I ran. Of course, we had specific questions we had to ask, but some of the more pertinent questions that you'd be able to ask after you go through your list of standard ones is I always like to know what their work timeline availability is. So I want to know, do you work on Saturdays? I want to know, do you work in the evenings? If you're a personal trainer, at the end of the day, you're working sometimes early mornings, right? We always say this is that you're on when people are off. So I always want to know that. Tell me what your, be honest, what's your work schedule? Are you going to call in on Saturdays and tell me that you can't make it in, just as a, for instance? That's a really important. I try to be as specific as I can. You have to be able to work certain hours because that's when clients are going to be available. So I always like, that's normally a major question. The other a good question that allows, it's an open-ended question that allows for more conversation is what's, sort of the standard, what are your, in your opinion, what are your weaknesses or what are your strengths? And I'm not asking because doesn't really matter what they say. I'm going to use those questions as a jumping board. Tell me what your strengths are from a servicing perspective. Tell me what your weaknesses are. And just like you said, if I was to speak to previous supervisors or managers, what would they say? What do you know about yourself? And like you said, Corey, that helps you to understand. Those are critical questions because you're trying to get a bead on what they honestly believe about themselves. And that lets me know if they're coachable or not. Yeah. And so for sure, that'd be two questions. I'm not sure how many other questions. What was that, two?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll something to feed off of what you just said. And those are great. Just know this, Austin, is that you've got to ask questions that are going to really bring out their personality when they talk and they respond. Are you feeling passion? Are you feeling enthusiasm? Are they going to be a good fit for your environment? They could be a really great guy, but if a really great girl, but if they don't jive with your environment, that's not going to fly. I had a conversation the other day. I was kind of laughing about this, but the truth of the matter is if you're doing interviews and the person is like complaining about all the last, every company that they've worked for, I match it up with like a relationship, right? If you're out there dating and, the person is complaining about every partner that they've been with in their life, guess who's next? So, if you are going into an interview and that person is complaining about the last 3 studios or gyms that they've worked at, there's a really good sign that that they're going to be complaining about you next. It's just, it's crazy how that works.
And there's another good question that's funny, and you prompted me to think. I'd like to know why they left the other job that they had, or why they've decided to pursue this field, and why they may have left, especially if it's in the same town. I mean, look, if somebody moved, my wife moved, and now I'm just looking to resettle back into a job, that can open up some questions. But if they are, from that area, just as a for instance, it's nice to know why they left. And that can open up an entirely new avenue of questioning. Financial or whatever the case is. Yeah.
Yeah. And that is a huge one, because if they tell you it's financial, you can just make sure that your position lines up. If they tell you the timing, the hours worked, or what they were expected to do, well, what did they expect you to do that didn't work out? But so great question, Austin. I hope that helps. We've got a couple others. So we've got Brandy in here raising her hand. We got Elijah. We're going to on deck. So Brandy, Brandy Johnson, welcome. I'm going to send you a notification on mute. Just fire away. Hey, Brandy.
Hi, Doug. Hi.
Hey, Brandy.
Hey, how are you?
Great.
Awesome. Tell us, Brandy, how can we help? How can we help you take it to the next level?
So I was wondering, what is the best way to approach clients that deals with chronic migraine? What is the best way to approach them to minimize their migraines so that they can follow through their week of scheduled workouts? Because like a lot of things trigger migraines, unfortunately.
I'll be honest with you. I don't mess around with that at all, Brandy. Meaning that if I have a client, and I've had many clients that had been in the scenario where they do get migraines like that, and they can be spurred by exercise, which is really unfortunate, but I just refer them to their primary care or out to, a specialist. And that's it. And then I'll ask them, they're like, let's bring in the doctors and find out, get some feedback. But generally speaking, like if somebody comes in and it's a one-off scenario, I'm going to have them sit out and just relax for a little while until it goes down and see if I could bring them back in. If it comes back up, then I'll call the session a quit. I won't charge them for that session and tell them to go feel better. And I'll see them, tomorrow, the next day. But if it's a chronic thing with a client that's a reoccurring, then I literally will highly recommend that they go see a specialist and then use the feedback from that specialist. There's a form that we use, and we can post that so you can use it, a physician's release, that they can also, the doctor can write in some information. But Doug, what would you do in that scenario?
Yeah, it's funny. Like you, I've dealt with folks that have these issues. It could be, Brandy, again, for the trainer, it's normally going to be our scope of practice limits us from doing certain things. But first thing I've done this with some folks is normally I'll ask them what time of the day, if they have. So if you can sort of isolate consistency in whatever the chronic issue is, it might be something that can be easily dealt with by simply switching a time of training. Interesting thing about migraines is that the medical community as well, it depends on the migraine, of course, and the severity, but unfortunately the medical community, as from a pharmacological perspective, that's normally what they got, but they'll tell you, dark room, right? Whatever it is, and allow it to pass through. Well, that doesn't help. It doesn't help us a whole lot. And so normally what I've done is I would simply ask, is there a consistency? Does it happen at a specific time of the day? Yeah, I always get them. Boom. I always get them.
What if it's exercise? What if it's exercise? Brandy, is it exercise induced, like type of scenario where they primarily get it when they're exercising, or does it just happen randomly throughout the day and throughout the week for this specific client?
It's randomly throughout the week. Like she even have a neurotransmitter. She's been dealing with it for a long time.
So she's under the care and the guidance of a neurologist, I would assume.
Yeah. And like she's just now kind of telling me that she has a neurotransmitter, which is like making me realize how in depth it actually is.
Right. So you're pretty much at the whim of what the physician is going to recommend. And if they do this for cardiac patients as well, as they'll monitor, and they will look for consistency of environmental conditions as well as internal conditions to see what is exactly the trigger. The problem with a migraine is that the actual migraine itself has a physiological baseline to it that you can look at and go, you're going to get the migraine. But the triggers that are going to cause the constriction of blood vessels, things like that actually cause it, that's probably my assumption right now. That's what the neurologist is trying to discern. And so they'll monitor them. And then you're just basically hands off until they can figure out if there is consistency in the triggering. And
yeah, I'll say, Brandy, based on the doctor actually being involved, and she's working with a specialist, what I would do, just like Doug said, and see if there's different times of the day that might be better to train. Also, I would see and just try, if she comes in and she doesn't have a migraine, she's feeling okay, and then you do a high intensity training and she gets a migraine, well, then the next time I would try maybe some really low intensity type training and just change up the program. And I would, if a doctor's involved, cleared her for exercise and it's sporadic, as you say, I would literally just try to, I would try a bunch of different things. I would try low intensity. I would try maybe high intensity, maybe, having longer rest periods. So the intensity, I had a client one time that I was training, and if the intensity was too high for too long without enough rest, she would get headaches. I'm not going to say, I don't know if it's migraines, because migraines are, I understand, debilitating, but basically that's all. That's what we have for you, Brandy. I hope that helps.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, you got it. Have a great week.
Thanks, Brandy.
So, Doug, that's kind of frustrating, because it's like you want to train somebody, it's like same thing with a client that has an injury, an acute injury or something that you want to work with them. They want to work with you, and you're trying everything you can to work around that client. And sometimes it could be, you have to have patience.
And the irony is that in some cases, and I've dealt with, so many clients with either chronic or acute issues where everybody's thrown up their hands. Doctor. Yeah. And by the way, once the physician or the specialist goes, I don't know what to tell you, try A, B, C, and D, because they don't know everything about every type of condition that they, you're what I would always do, because I'm mechanical by nature. I want to figure something out, and I want to reverse engineer. And if I know what causes the problem, I know what causes migraines. I know what causes, I had a client once many years ago who had TMJ, right? Temporomandibular joint syndrome, right? And sure. And you've dealt with people like this, and the training, because of the intensity, she would be clenching her jaw, and she had been training with a trainer for a while. And when I got her to train, she was young, in good shape, relatively young, late 20s, early 30s, in really good shape. But she would get these massive headaches because of her. And you know what I found she was doing was she was holding her breath.
That'll do it.
During the eccentric. And when she would move from the negative to the positive, I remember just going, hang on, are you holding your breath? She goes, yeah, I was told. I said, oh my.
Right.
And you want to talk about one of those scenarios where it was like, no, exhale as you're doing it. And guess what happens?
Yeah. Look, just the fact that Brandy came on and asked the question is somebody that is a trainer that cares and wants to work with the client. And, it's definitely hard, but it's not impossible, Brandy. That's for sure. You could do it. And we work, Doug and I have called them the walking wounded for years. Generally speaking, there's always something with some client. Somebody's got something going on that you have to be able to work around. And sometimes that's, a little frustrating, but they appreciate it. And then you develop that rapport. So yeah, great question. Okay. We're going to bounce over to Elijah. I see your hand up, guys. If you're in the chat and you have a question, just type it below and we'll get to you. Elijah, you're up next. I'm going to send you a notification to unmute yourself and just fire away. Tell us what you have.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Wanted to know what, as far as better preparing a student for 7th edition, if they've been studying 6th edition during their course of time. So 6 months, I'm getting ready to go into 7th, or NASM is in 7th edition. How do I better prepare myself or get adjusted from 6th edition to 7th?
Yeah, I mean, the real answer to that, Elijah, or the real way to handle that is simply by working with their psyche and how they're looking and thinking about it. Because the truth of the matter is, if they study the 6th or the 7th, they're going to be fine on passing the exam. If they study the 7th and for example, took the 6th, they would be fine. If they study the 6th and took the 7th, they're going to be fine. I've spoke to NASM on many occasions about this, and the changes that have from the 6th to the 7th are not great enough that it would affect whether or not generally they're going to pass this exam. So I would just let them know not to be concerned, that they could shift right over as long as they've covered the 6th information. They're going to be just fine. And so it's really just, what would you call that, Doug? Just changing expectations, or
it's just the way
that their paradigm, the way that they're looking at it or thinking about it, that, it's
not getting confused. Yeah. With the chapter headings, the 6th edition had 20 chapters and the 7th edition has 23 chapters. So you go from the 6th and you're looking, but the fact of the matter is the material for the most part hasn't changed. In fact, the 7th edition is, in my opinion, and I've gone through both of them and looked extensively through both of them, is that the 7th actually made the material a lot easier to understand. So you can read the 6th edition textbook and you're going to learn about autogenic inhibition. As far as I can tell, over the past 8,000 years, autogenic inhibition hasn't changed. So whether they go 6th edition, that's a joke, to 7th edition, nothing has changed. And so read the 6th edition. If you can even get study resources on 7th edition. Just keep the two separate, because you're going to read through chapter 20 on the 7th edition, and it's in chapter 6 in the 6th. But guess what? For the most part, the material's all the same. There is one thing to always consider now, whenever additions change, there's not much, but there's some pieces of material. And I'm going to tell you what that main change is for anybody that's listening from the 6th to the 7th edition. It's blood pressure, but that's not a NASM issue. Blood pressure designations have changed. And so if you have an older edition, you're going to see incorrect information. And that is the only thing. But guess what? For NASM, ACE, ACSM, and it doesn't matter. That's on you as a professional trainer, to know what the difference and changes are. And that's the only thing, but everything
but
else
look, Elijah, going back to answer your question, that's not going to affect the outcome of the 6 or 7. So it's really just a matter of changing the way that they're looking at it. Does that answer your question, Elijah? You feel comfortable with that?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for bringing that. Appreciate it. Okay, so let's move on. Doug, I think at the end of the day that when they change these editions, right, there's so much, because there's an exam and there's money involved, right? If you fail, money and time, then you're like spending. But if they change the edition so much that, folks would actually, not pass, that would be a huge issue. And all the time that we've been involved with these guys, these certifications, for the most part, when they've changed editions, you've studied or you haven't. And if you studied, likely, look, even if you studied the 5th edition, that doesn't even exist with NASM anymore. If you studied the 4th edition, you could probably pass the 7th.
I see it all the time in the Facebook. We'll be running through the Facebook and it'll be like, hey, studied for 3 hours, the entire textbook, and I passed. And it was this, and I go, wow, that's really impressive. Or I only had the 6th and I took, the fact of the matter is that you're absolutely correct. These organizations are not dealing with new information. Okay. Anatomy, physiology has not changed. Program design has not changed. We know how to train people. They may add a little bit here, a little bit there, but the significance as to how that material is represented on an exam does not change a whole lot. Even with ACE, and ACE made some significant changes to their formatting. They went from a 4-phase, double-tier 4-phase model now to a double-tier 3-phase model with the addition of this new thing called the mover method. So some people will look at the 6th edition versus the 5th and the 4th and they'll go, oh no, it's actually easier. It's actually easier.
Don't make a big deal out of it. Don't worry about it. Don't sweat that stuff. So, one thing I wanted to share before we're getting ready to wrap this up, if you have a question, you could just raise your hand or put it in the chat. Thanks so much for these questions so far and being a part of this. Earlier in a meeting I had, I was talking about landing pages, and a lot of people, trainers out there, a lot are familiar with landing pages. Some are not. In short, I just want to share a little nugget because it really does make a big deal, especially with people's attention spans today. It's really important that you have a landing page and that you're not sending traffic to a website. That's just a really, really bad move. And what I mean by that, if you're not familiar with the difference between a website and a landing page, a website is, think of it like this. It's like a brochure. On a website, you've got all these options at the top. And so it could be like blog, it could be like our location, all these options at the top, my bio. And that's a website. And that's great for like people to learn more about they're not ready to take action, but they want to learn more. They might go over to your website. But from an advertising standpoint, which is really important in today's business, it's really important that you use a landing page. You don't send them to a website because it's too many shiny objects. They get like all flustered. They're not sure what to do. And then they read a couple things and then they go. A landing page doesn't have all those options. It still has the same very similar design element. Okay. Look and feel. But the only options really on the landing page is a form that they fill out, and they fill out that form. So there's all those options at the top, they don't exist. It's just like a little bit of information, some, services that you do, what it is that you do, some client testimonials, things like that. And then a form that they will fill out to request a consultation with you. Generally speaking, this is the business model of personal training worldwide right now in successful models. And so when you send people to that landing page, it's really important that that landing page is fast. And with today, people, if they're waiting for this page to load because you have uploaded videos onto it, or you've uploaded tons of photos, or the platform is not that fast, after I'm being told now, after 3, 4, 5 seconds, they're gone. I mean, 6, 7, 8, 9 seconds, they are gone. And it's very common to find pages that are taking a while to load. So if you're sending them to a website, man, that's really could be problematic. So, I just wanted to share that because we were talking about it earlier today. It's something that we're constantly working to improve our landing pages. And generally speaking, you want to get it down to less than 3 seconds. And there's a couple tools on the internet. One is called Pingdom, pingdom.com test. And you could check the speed of your landing page. I would check the speed of your website too, but it's really important that it's with today's time. So guys, thank you so much. We're coming to a close here. Last, Doug, I wanted to just, shoot it out there to everyone again. Just remember that if you are studying right now and you're a tactile learner, you need more help, you want some hands-on, come to our live course in Atlanta, Georgia. We still have seats available in September. We hold this every 2 months. So if you can't make it in September, you could come to the next one in November, but we have seats available in September. If you need additional help, we'd love to kind of walk you through the process. We actually take you through all 6 steps. And what I mean by that is 6 modules to become an industry leading personal trainer. We'd love to have you. So if you need more help, keep that in mind. And we're here for you. Doug, any last minute tips for them?
Yeah, I've been on the phone talking to some students as well, and letting them know, because I hear it a lot. Look, for the majority, we've known this for years, for the majority of trainers out there, individuals that want to help other people that like to exercise, do these things, they tend to be tactile learners. And so I've spoken to a number of students that have told me, the material, I can do A, B, C, and D, but it's a struggle. And we talk about learning styles, and those are some of the really important components of the live course that can be really, really helpful. So yeah, the live course is just far and away one of the most effective ways to actually get the information that you're going to use in the real world. And that's a key to what we do, is that this is real world. You are literally hands-on. We do caliper measurements. We work on the computer. I mean, we do so much. Do I have to go on?
No, you don't. But I think it's really helpful for them to hear that and know that.
Yeah.
We do exercise demonstrations. We do injury workarounds. We teach you how to make a sales phone call. We teach you how to write an advertisement, shoot a video for an advertisement, all kinds of things that are real world application. And this is why NASM and ACE have partnered with us to provide their folks the training that they really need to be successful. And this is what we do. And this is what we've been doing for almost 20 years now. And we'd love to help you. And Doug makes a really good point. Some of the best trainers out there are tactile learners. They're not going to read from a book or an online program and learn that way. They actually have to be in front of some people. And if that's you, then we invite you to be a part of what it is that we do. We make it very easy for you to do. If you can't afford it up front, we do interest-free payments to make it affordable. You can stay at an Airbnb, even room share with other students. We provide a free airport pickup. And if you stay at an Airbnb within 2 miles of the school, we will literally pick you up every morning for class and bring you back. And we've got, a big group of people coming in September from all over the world. I mean, all over the country. I think somebody just enrolled in like 2 days ago from Egypt. We've got somebody flying in from Egypt to take our live course, and all the different states. So if you want to be a part and join an awesome group of people, again, we invite you to be a part of it. But other than that, we're going to sign off here, guys. Thank you so much for being a part of this. We hope that it was helpful. We hope that you take your personal training business to the next level. And we will see you next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Have a great week.